I used to procrastinate and lack productivity all the time, but now I have built amazing productivity which has allowed me to be consistent on YouTube, build my dream physique, and have perfect habit trackers without any bad habits. Wanting to be productive is not as hard as you think, and in this video I'll give you the 3 actual habits that completely skyrocketed my productivity. We'll start by priming our brain for the right behavior, meticulously tracking productivity, and finally creating a process of improvement so we know we're doing better and better. The first habit I want to speak about is something called priming. What I used to have before is I used to, on the one hand, want to achieve my goals. I used to want to be productive, especially with my business. But what happened was I ended up doing nothing. I wasn't creating the content. I wasn't putting in the work. And even though I wanted to achieve my goals on the one hand, on the other, I completely lacked energy and motivation to actually get it done. I was not clear about my goals. I wasn't clear about what I wanted to achieve. But then I watched a video or something. Some guy basically told me his vision of his business and what he wanted to achieve. And I watched that video and was like, why don't I have a vision? Like, why does he have one, but I don't have one? So what I did is I opened a Word document on my computer and I started writing. And I wrote a few things down, but the main things I wrote was first what I wanted out of my life in every area: body, mind, relationships, and wealth, business. Then I also wrote what I envisioned my business to be. You know, that was my main goal. What do I envision that to be? And basically writing that vision of what I wanted to achieve really started motivating me. You know, I started putting in the work. I started wanting to do it more, because when I had this concrete, clear vision of the future, I sort of got giddy. Like my brain started feeling like this is becoming a reality. Like I can achieve this, and if I achieve this, this would be awesome. And that's what priming is. It's literally just convincing your brain. You have to treat your brain as a different person. You're not productive, you're procrastinating because you don't treat your brain right. You know, you've not put it in the right conditions. You've not primed it for success. So what you can do is you can write a vision of what you want to achieve with your life, and this will make you very happy and excited to pursue it. Not you, but your brain will give you the motivation, because now you have it in your head, you visualize it. And you can do this for 15 minutes every morning to read your routine, read your vision of how you want your life to be. You can read your positive affirmations and beliefs, and you should do this 50 minutes each morning. My previous videos was exactly about this 15-minute routine. But what I realized is that at some point I did remove this routine, and what happened is that I gradually started getting more and more demotivated. But then I came back with this routine only about 1 or 2 months ago, and I started being motivated again. So the point I'm trying to make is that you need to prime your brain for success, for productivity, for exactly what you wanted to achieve for that day before the day starts. So take 15 minutes first thing after you wake up to do that. The second habit I want to talk about is tracking everything like you're crazy. Just meticulously tracking all your productivity. What I used to do before is I used to procrastinate. So I would have these days which were semi-productive. I wasn't really doing that much. I wasn't going to achieve my goals like this. And I kind of procrastinate. I spent a lot of time just not really putting in that hard work, not really attaining the success I want to attain. And this really hurt me, but at the same time I wasn't changing anything. So it was just this repetitive cycle of trying to do work, maybe doing a little bit, maybe not, and then failing, and then feeling sorry for yourself, telling yourself that you're a failure, but then trying again, but nothing's happening. So that's the cycle I was stuck in. The thing that made me escape the cycle was tracking. So I read this self-help book, I think it was called Atomic Habits, and the book basically said, like, track your habits. What if you don't measure something, it doesn't get improved, And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna try it. I'm desperate anyway, I'm procrastinating, so I'm gonna try to track my habits. And lo and behold, within 1 week, right? I did this for 1 week, I improved my productivity, but then I did this for another week and it completely changed my productivity. So immediately, as I started tracking on the next day, I improved my productivity. And there are three things that you can track. The first thing I tracked was my schedule. So I created a schedule. The reason this was important because that was like the standard. That was what I actually had to achieve. When I didn't have a schedule, I was just disorganized, I wasn't doing anything. But then when I had a schedule, immediately as I woke up, I had this sort of feeling in my head of pressure, like, okay, you have to do this, you have to pursue your goals. And that's the first thing, tracking your schedule. But the second thing is tracking your habits. So looking at all the habits in your schedule and over the course of a week, tracking them to see how consistent you've been. And it only took me 1 week of doing this before I realized so many mistakes, and I realized where I was failing my productivity and where I could improve. And to this day, I'm still doing this because it's one of the most powerful habits. And there's a recent third thing I started tracking, which is the deep work. So while I'm working, what am I producing for each hour? And on a scale of 0 to 4, what is my productivity? So I give myself a productivity score for each hour based on how much I've produced, and I have a standard for each hour. So tracking these three things, my daily schedule, my actual habits, and my productivity during work, completely increased my productivity. Like, I can't even explain to you, this changed my life. So if you want to implement some of what I'm telling you, it will change your life. The third habit is just improvement. So once you've tracked everything, what happens is you've got enough data. So I got all this data from my schedules, like where was my schedule working and not, which habits I'm completing and not, and recently, what am I actually doing in my deep work session. And just tracking all these things gives you immense amount of data. I promise you, you're gonna learn more from this data, from tracking everything, than you're ever gonna learn from self-help books or videos. I've watched all the videos, I read all the books, I still procrastinated, but then I started tracking everything and everything completely changed. So you're gonna learn much more by tracking everything. And once you track everything, you compile all the data. What I did next was I started making weekly improvements. So I have currently this contemplation session for like 2 hours a week, at the end of the week, just looking at all my schedules, all my habits, everything I've done and everything I haven't done, looking at all my productivity with the work, with everything. And I look at it at the end of the week and I ask myself, what can I improve? What are the mistakes I made and where can I improve? And this contemplation session has genuinely saved years of my life of mistakes, because I kept making the same procrastination mistakes over and over and over again, and I wasn't fixing anything, I wasn't making progress. I felt like I was stuck. But then I started tracking everything and I started making improvements. I started seeing recurring mistakes. Like, for example, each morning, instead of doing my work, I would start watching YouTube. And I asked myself why I was doing this. And eventually I blocked YouTube. I fixed the reason of why I was doing this, which was fear from the work. I fixed everything. I created the improvements. And this allowed me to essentially fix my productivity. I stopped procrastinating. There are probably right now around 10 reasons you procrastinate, around 10 reasons you're not productive. And the only way to improve this is by tracking each week what you're doing and how you're doing it and where you're failing. And then when you see that data, you can make improvements. And these 3 habits, daily in the morning, 15 minutes, priming my brain for success by telling myself positive affirmations and by reading my vision of my life and my business. And then tracking what I actually do with my schedule, with my habit tracker, and with my daily productivity, or for each hour productivity tracking. And finally, just making the improvements once a week, sitting down for 2 hours and making the improvements. If you do these 3 things, your productivity will easily improve in one day. Like by tomorrow, you have 5 times the productivity.